So I wanted to continue on the premise of a TACoS Tuesday event, in the sense that we're here, we're just going to be chatting about different things. If you guys have questions about PPC, this is a place and time for you guys to do that. Each week, we're going to be sharing something new that's happened with the ads, a new feature, or maybe something I just want to share with you guys as a tip, which will help if you're not using ads. Definitely will help if you are, but if you're not, probably still help you in your regular PPC optimizations or questions. But the theme, just so that everyone who's new knows, 2 Tuesdays ago on the 29th, when we had our big webinar, we made a lot of different announcements about ads, lots of different releases, editable rules, which is one thing that we're going to go through. After that webinar, from 1 to 4, we had an after party from 4 to 6. And the theme of that after party was TACoS Tuesday. So we had Sherry Yvette on earlier in the day, the Urban Cowgirl, at 10 o'clock that morning. And the goal is to share and talk about why TACoS is an important metric for users to know. So for those that don't know, it's not just tacos that we're talking about here. It's not the food, which I love tacos. I forgot to wear my TACoS shirt, but it's actually total ACoS that we're talking about when we speak about TACoS. And total ACoS is something that we do show actually in the ads dashboard, which I'll show you guys in a second. But it's another measurement that we want you guys to be looking at. And what it basically means is your ACoS is just looking at your PPC spend divided by your advertising sales. Your TACoS is looking at your total sales divided by your PPC spend. So your total sales is going to include your organic and your PPC sales. One reason why we stress that and why it's prevalent in ads, our PPC management software tool, is because we do know that PPC does affect organic sales. Maybe not immediately, but certainly down the road, the more someone sees your ad, the more likely they're going to click on it maybe later on after they come back. There's also the indexing portion. If your listings don't have all the keywords that you maybe should have when you built it, sometimes PPC can help you index for those keywords if you actually do get sales on those keywords. So we know there's an effect of the PPC affecting your organic sales. So we're trying to focus on that as a metric to measure performance of your PPC campaigns holistically, looking at your account in total versus just looking at your ACoS alone, which is still an important metric to look at, absolutely, but we want people to be looking at both. So we're going to be, if you guys, depending on where you're watching, I think we're in several different places right now. So like I said, what we're going to do is just going to go through a new feature really quickly. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to look at ads. If you have questions about it, you guys are actually the first ones who are getting a tutorial about this new feature that I'm going to show you. So if you have questions about it, obviously, here's the place to do that. The comment sections are open. Adrian Beam says, nice haircut, Vince. Thank you, Adrian. I got it cut especially for today. It was getting kind of COVID crazy. So we'll give it a minute, and then I'm just going to pop into ads and show you guys the reset function. So last week, if you guys were on, actually it wasn't last week, so that same day of the webinar, I announced editable rules. So I'm just going to pop in and share that right now so that we can look at it together. All right, perfect. So we're going to pop over to the ad manager within ads. And for those of you that do have access to ads, which is diamond and above now, you would have noticed a new configure column here, which actually allows you to either edit campaigns that you've built in ads. This is Bradley's Project X account. So most of his campaigns were built in ads. So actually, one I should have mentioned right away, if you want to know, hey, did I build a campaign in ads, or if have I put it in a campaign structure, it's going to have this new reset button. And that's actually the feature that I wanted to share this morning before we just open it up to questions. So as a refresher, the new configure feature, which launched on the 29th, again, allows you to look at campaigns that you've built in ads. and it allows you to change the metrics that you might have initially set up when you created that campaign. So here you can see for Bradley's egg tray account or egg tray product, he launched campaign and ads, auto, research, and proven. And he set an ACoS of 30%. He set his new keyword rules. He set his negative keyword rules. And this looks like pretty much original. So he has not gone back in here yet to make any edits, but now he can. Previously, you could not. So this is the place where you can do that. You can come in, I can change his ACoS target right now if I wanted to increase or reduce it, change the number of threshold sales. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change that for him because we do know that threshold number of sales should be at least 2. Why is that? When you're looking at new keyword rules, what we're saying is, hey, we're going to look at all the search terms for you. And you can do this manually. You're going to look at your search term reports. When you find those search terms that are underneath your ACoS threshold, which in this case is 30%, and what we're saying is if it has one sale under 30%, let's make it a new keyword suggestion for the campaign below, which is our research campaign. Well, when you have just one sale, sometimes it's a fluke. Sometimes it's not necessarily a keyword that is relevant to your product. Sometimes people will do random searches and they'll be looking for one thing, but they'll end up buying yours. But the search term that they clicked on or that they used was still going to be attributed to your sale. So we do see that sometimes. So in order to make sure that we don't have those kind of fluke one sale type keywords being moved, you want to set your threshold number of sales to at least 2. So with what this is saying now is if we have a search term that is under 30% and has at least 2 sales, we're going to recommend it as a new keyword now. And that's going to be for the auto to the research campaign as well as the research to the proven campaign here. So I'm just going to, I can save these changes, but really quickly, the other thing I want to note is that now we can automate these things. So this campaign has been going on for a while. I'm not going to turn on automation for him, but it technically is something that Bradley can do now is turn on new keyword rule suggestions automatically and negative keyword rules suggestions automatically. Once those are activated, basically the changes are going to be recorded in the change log. So we built the change log that records basically everything that you guys do with your keywords, whether it be changing bids, pausing keywords, adding negatives, resetting keywords in our suggestions page. We track everything. So the change log is also going to be where we're going to track if you do use our automation function. This is also new. So not only are you able to edit your campaigns that you did build in ads, but you're also able to automate them, okay? So I'm gonna we're gonna go through some questions while we're doing this. So let's see here. We've got some questions from S Green. Is there a way to set up in Campaign Builder that the profitable search terms from an auto campaign should go into an exact campaign instead of a broad? There is, not in the Campaign Builder though. S Green asks this. So right now, when you build a campaign in ads, we are going to set up this 3 campaign structure. However, the next thing that I'm going to cover shows you how you can take existing campaigns and you can just put a 2 campaign structure that has the auto campaign at the top and the proven campaign next. So you're just skipping the research campaign. So we don't have it set so you can jump this automatically in our campaign builder yet. We do have a new campaign builder that is being built out. Hopefully by the end of this quarter, you guys will see that. Maybe that will be a functionality. But for now, what you can do is, we haven't even gone into the reset function yet, but this is actually important. So this is a campaign that is not in a structure, and I could tell because there wasn't a reset button here. So this was a campaign not built in ads. This is a product targeting campaign. So S Green, this is a pre-existing campaign built in Seller Central. So you would just make this your auto campaign, right? There's nothing to show for this. Product targeting campaigns are not included in our campaign flow. But if there was an ad group in here with keywords, I would be able to select that. So that's why product targeting is appearing here, but there's no ad group in this campaign that has keywords as targets, so there's nothing to show. But if you pretend this is your auto campaign, or maybe you could even do a broad-based, a broad keyword campaign at the top, and have the next one be your exact campaign. You would do that by clicking on the automated keyword harvesting, and that basically just means If you want us to not only look for negative keywords for you, which are these rules here, if you want us to add new keyword suggestions to campaigns in this flow, then this is where you do that. So you'd find the campaign with the proven ad group, and you would select it here, and then you would just save changes. You would just create a 2-campaign structure. So I hope that answers that question, S Green. And Jazz asks, let's see here. So I've done my keyword research in Cerebro and Magnet for launch. That's great. Is the next step in putting them into the broad campaign when setting them up in ads? Would I need to create multiple broad campaigns? So Jazz, this is a question about, is there any way for me to show the question? I know that Bradley does that sometimes. I should be able to like show you guys what the question is. So Jazz is basically saying, hey, I did my keyword research. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And obviously you have a lot of keywords. So yes, when you're first launching, when you're just doing your initial campaigns, you want to make sure the most important thing with PPC at launch is getting data on those keywords that you've done all this research on. So you want to look at the volumes of those search terms, right? And or those keywords. And you want to make sure that your lower volume keywords are in a group, and you want to make sure your higher volume keywords are in a group. Depending on how many you have, you might have a medium, kind of mid-range volume keywords in the research that you did. We actually did a PPC training on this, a PPC structure, campaign structures and creation training on this a couple weeks ago. So hopefully that will be released. And basically what we're saying is make sure that those are grouped in those campaigns, because that's the only way to make sure you're going to get impressions and spend on those keywords is if they're in a small enough campaign where the budget's going to be spread around. So you would need to create multiple broad campaigns if those are all in your research. If you have some that you know should absolutely convert for you, you might want to use those in the exact, if you're using our campaign builder. But like I just showed you here, you don't necessarily have to build the campaigns in ads now. You can build the campaigns outside of ads, and then you can now apply these rules. So real quickly before we forget, or I forget, the new feature that I wanted to share with you guys is the reset button, actually. So which just launched actually yesterday. So let's say you created that structure, right? You picked an auto campaign and you picked another campaign here. Maybe you selected a third. It would end up looking like very similar to this structure. So once you put a campaign or campaigns into a campaign structure, it's going to look just like it would as if you built it in ads if you click this button. But let's say you made a mistake. The only thing that you can do in this form currently is just, you can still update the ACoS, you can still update these new and negative keyword rules, but you can't necessarily change the order of these campaigns or remove these campaigns. So the new feature that I wanted to share with you guys is this reset button, which basically says, hey, undo what I just did, or undo what I did originally when I made this campaign, right? Like I said, these are campaigns that Bradley first created in ads long time ago for the coffin shelf. Let's say he wants to undo this structure, undo this flow. Let's say he has another campaign that's doing better that he wants to insert into here, or maybe he wants to do the auto directly to approven. There's a variety of reasons. Obviously, you guys would want to potentially change the order or remove these campaigns from these structures. So that's what this reset button does. It allows you to reset to default, and default essentially means these 3 campaigns. It's going to go, the automatic default for our keyword bidding is 30%. So when you go to our suggestions page, if you just uploaded campaigns and ads, the target is going to be 30%. So we're just saying we're setting that back to default, 30% just for your keyword bids. And we're removing all the new keyword and negative keyword rules because we're basically untangling these. So once, if I were to click reset to default, it would remove these 3 campaigns from the structure, and then you'd be able to go and put them in a different structure if you wanted to, just by clicking on it would no longer have the reset button because it's out of a structure. So you could click on it again, and then you could go ahead and put this into a different structure. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, actually ask me some more questions, since that was the key feature I wanted you guys to ask about this. But let's go on to some more questions. Adrian asks, okay, I'm about to launch 2 products into separate listings that are similar. Let's check it out. Yeah, thank you. I'm about to launch 2 products into separate listings that are similar to each other than the design on them. When should you put multiple SKUs in the same PPC campaign flow? Advantages, disadvantages. Two products into separate listings. Well, if they're in separate listings, then they really shouldn't be in the same campaign. The only reason that you would want to put the multiple SKUs in the same campaign is if they're on the same landing page. So you're kind of dividing and conquering that way. This is the opposite of that. So I would consider that a disadvantage, Adrian. So you really want to focus on, again, the primary, if you're just launching especially, primary goal is to get the most data that you can on each individual SKU and keyword. So technically best case or best practices should be, one campaign, one SKU. If the SKUs are very similar though, and it's only maybe like a color variation that's slightly different and you want to test, sure, throw those two SKUs in. They're still going to go to the same landing page from the ad. And then eventually you'll be able to figure out if one SKU works better than the other one. But I definitely would not put two SKUs in the same campaign if they're going to separate listings. S. Green asks, same question. If I have an existing broad campaign created in Seller Central, how can I set up the profitable search terms to go into exact? So I just went over that. So exactly the form I'm looking at, you select that existing broad campaign, and then you select the proven campaign as your second one, and then you save the changes. That's currently the only way that you can do that. You don't need to build that into ads to accomplish that. What would be the threshold settings for launch? CNA Meshkar asks, what would be the threshold settings for launch? So this is something that we go back and forth on, and honestly, it's as aggressive as you want to be, Meshkar, because again, the goal of PPC at launch is to get the most amount of data as quickly as you possibly can. You might not want to do that on like a day like today. Today is Prime Days, obviously, and tomorrow, so lots of heavy traffic. So if you've got brand new campaigns out there that you haven't fully tested, you might want to throttle those down right now. Actually, there's a PPC tip coming out later today from me about Prime Day budgets talking about that. But in general, the goal of PPC campaigns is to just get the data as quickly as you can so that you can then optimize them down, right? If you don't have the data to see what works, then you can't cut out the waste. So you got to spend a lot of money up front and then roll it down. So that's one of the reasons why we made these rules editable now, is so that, let's say, for example, 30% is a fairly aggressive ACoS target. Some people might think that's too high. At launch, honestly, if you can afford it, do 100% ACoS, right? Because you're going to get a lot more new keyword rule suggestions. You're also going to get negative keyword suggestions as well. But you're just going to get a lot more data in general if you do like a break-even ACoS. So I would suggest either 100% ACoS target when you're launching, or figure out what your break-even is. Figure if you want to include your FBA fees, your cost of goods, and then you maybe subtract that. Then put that percentage in here. But as high as you can go without maybe like losing money per se in the PPC, that's what you want to do. And these settings that are here, new keyword rules, negative keyword rules, you still want to be fairly aggressive. I would still do the minimum of 2. I still wouldn't do 1. I would leave search term isolation disabled for now. I would definitely leave automation off at launch, because you want to make sure the suggestions you're getting are what you really, really want. Threshold clicks, you might be a little bit more aggressive with this. You might say, okay, I'm at launch. I want to get as much data as I can. So maybe I don't want to be too aggressive with the negative keyword suggestions that I'm getting. So maybe instead of 15 clicks, and what this essentially means is I want to see a negative keyword suggestion if it has 15 clicks or no sales, or if it has $10 in spend and no sales. So that's what these two parameters are here. So be more aggressive if you want. If you want to get more data without necessarily getting negative keyword suggestions immediately, increase this to 30 clicks with no sales before made a suggestion, or $50 or the price of your product. Make that the threshold cost instead of a lower threshold cost, so that you'll get more data before negative keyword suggestions. So I would do those kind of aggressive settings for at least 2 to 3 weeks. Again, the goal being to get the data. And then once you have the data and you start whittling down, you start adding the negative keywords, you start maybe pausing keywords if you're not able to just clean up the search terms for those keywords, then you can go back in here and then you can change your settings. You can go in, you can set this down to a more realistic ACoS goal for yourself, 30%, and you can adjust these new negative keyword rules to be less aggressive, and then save those changes. So that's what the functionality really does. It allows you to go through stages with your campaigns. As you're growing, you can just update these. You can move them around, you can put them into different campaign flows, and then you can update the targets, and ads will always give you suggestions based on the parameters that you do enter. But keep in mind, especially at launch, well, not maybe especially at launch, but at least after the 2 weeks and 3 weeks of data collection, your goal is the TACoS. Your goal is really trying to see, what is my total sales and what is my TACoS, right? So you guys can see here the past 30 days. For Bradley's account, he actually has a 56% ACoS, but his total ACoS is pretty good. It's below 20%. This isn't really the season for some of his projects. Actually, his coffin shelf, but maybe not the other product. But this really kind of gives you an idea of how your overall PPC campaigns are affecting your business. Your total sales is your business. The holy grail of Amazon is getting organic sales, right? So if we know PPC influences your organic sales, we should actually be monitoring that as well. So the dashboard is one area where we have that included in ads. And then the product level of our analytics is another area where we include the ACoS and the TACoS. So here we can see right away that the ACoS and total sales for these color variations that he has is not very good. So obviously the black one is doing better overall with only a 17% ACoS. But so again, the goal with these editable rules, as well as the reset function to be able to undo, is to allow you guys the room to adjust your campaigns as your campaigns are growing. But at launch, the focus is on data collection. So I know that was a very long answer, but hopefully I'm covered some of them that, let's see. Okay. Adrian asks again, after doing a launch, how do you personally determine your ongoing overall PPC budget for all campaigns for a single product? You should, if you can, you should try to figure out your PPC budget before your launch. Best case scenario is that if you do your homework, you know how much approximately you're going to spend on your PPC in a given time frame, because you've done the keyword research. You're able to see how much the keyword bids are that you bid upon. So in the Freedom Ticket series, Kevin King has a spreadsheet actually that's downloadable. It's in Freedom Ticket that is a budget calculator. And so he gives, it's kind of some questions like if you're using placement bidding or dynamic bidding and such. But if you can try to get your budget ahead of time, Adrian, that's the best case scenario. Obviously, if you don't have your budget ahead of time and then you launch your campaigns, then you should be able to extrapolate what you should be spending in order to get the data that you need, because now you have actual costs. So there's no one right way to determine your overall PPC budget, because every single campaign and keywords are going to have different bids and different budgets and different categories, and different niches are going to be more expensive than the others. Product targeting campaigns are slightly more expensive than keyword-based campaigns. So overall budget is really something that at launch you should try to put as much to it as you can, and then when you start whittling it down, turning off those search terms that are not converting for you, potentially pausing keywords. I noticed you guys, I always say potentially pausing keywords. You shouldn't pause keywords if you don't have to. You should really be focusing on the search terms if they're broad or phrase match. Obviously, if these are exact match keywords, you have the data because the search term is the same as the keyword. So, but if you should try to be focusing on the search terms first when talking about reducing your spend to given keywords. And we make that super easy for you guys here in ads. On the analytics page, you can see the search term, every single search term. It's in every single campaign that he has running. You can also do the same thing in the ad manager. We make it really simple to find the search terms within the campaigns. No more downloading of reports. You don't need to worry about that when you're using a tool like ads. Or there's other third-party tools that do similar, but of course, my preference is this tool. Let's see. Let's see. Thank you. How can we figure out a budget for a campaign? Do you recommend running unlimited daily budget? So I kind of just answered that question. What I will say to this one is that you do want to make sure that you're at least at launch that you're not running out of budget, right? Amazon's campaigns time frame is start at midnight and they go to 11:59 the next day. So what you want to do is make sure that, especially at launch, that you have enough budget in there to make sure that you're not turning off during the day, because then you're not going to get the data that you need to look through and look through your search term reports, look through your data, get suggestions from a tool like ads if you're off for part of the day. A lot of users ask about day parting, which is having your campaigns on and off during a certain part of the day. At launch especially, it's not something that I recommend, because again, it's all about getting, at launch especially, it's all about getting the data. So you need to have all the data, which means all time zones included in that data set in order for you to really make decisions on it. So the best answer that I can give you is to make sure that you just have enough budget in there so that you're not shut off during the day for at least 2 to 3 weeks at launch. Torsten asks, can you add multiple different ad accounts to manage PPC for other accounts? Yeah, you can actually. I think this might be an account that, yeah, you can see here, Bradley has 2 different accounts launched here or connected here. If you want to see how that works, actually, for those of you guys that do have ads, I'm going to click this learn button. It does autoplay, which is annoying, and I actually want it to stop. But I just want to show you where that is. Okay, so we have again, we have pro trainings from everything from the overview, campaign creation, suggestions page, analytics page optimizations. The rules that we just released are all in here. The pro training on how to manage multiple PPC accounts in one ads account is right here, Torsten. So make sure you check that out. Olga asks, if you don't get impressions on a particular keyword, should one put it in a separate campaign by itself? And if so, what is the advantage? If you're not getting impressions on a particular keyword, it might just be the bid. Maybe you just need to increase the bid so that you start getting impressions on the particular keyword. If that still doesn't work, you could try separating it off and giving that campaign its own budget, but then you would just be doing that a lot. The best way to do it is actually have the campaign set up. Again, the campaign structure, PPC training, it goes over this, but have no more than 10 to 20 keywords. I tend to say 10, right? And if you have 10 keywords and they're very similar in volume, search volume, then you're going to potentially get the data that you need. Ultimately, of those 10 keywords, it's going to end up being probably 2 or 3 keywords that end up converting regularly anyway. So you're going to eventually whittle it down to 1 or 2 or 3 keywords. So I'm of the mindset of, start with at least 10, 15 keywords, make sure they're getting all the data that you can get by increasing the bids, increasing the budget on that campaign that it's in, and then rolling it down. And then eventually you're going to see the 2 or 3 keywords that are going to be leading that anyways. Os Group Limited, would you recommend do multiple lists for different variations of the same product and the purpose to catch as much place as possible on the page? Multiple listing, different variations of the same product. Yeah, you definitely can do that. If you've got budget to do this, Os Group Limited, I love this as a YouTube one because they have interesting names. Yeah, you can do that. You can create listings for the same product, maybe a different color. Then you would run different campaigns, to those each individual listings, and then at least for sponsored product listings, you would appear potentially multiple times. Again, that's if you have budget. Eventually, you'll see some color variations work better than others, and then you focus your budget on the one variation that for PPC that spends more or converts better. But you technically could do the same thing. It might take a little bit longer, but you could do the same thing if you had all the variations on one page, right? You can run ads. You can still run an ad for each SKU, and it just goes to the one listing. And then eventually you would see the same trend. Certain colors are going to sell better than others, and then you would focus your PPC spend on the color that's converting. But if you want to cast a wider net at the beginning, then that is definitely one approach that you can take. All right, let's see. What else do we have? Torsten asks, can you easily migrate your proven keywords to sponsored brand and sponsored display ad types? Yes, you can. You can do that by using our clipboard and then moving them in, but you cannot right now move a keyword from a sponsored product campaign to a sponsored brand. There are two different campaign types. For one thing, sponsored brands don't have ad groups. Sponsored keywords do. Sponsored product keyword do have ad groups. So there's a disconnect between the way those two talk to each other. And that's a limitation through the API, through the Amazon, the connection that we have. It's called an API. So they are different to the point where, let's see, does he even have any SBAs? No, he has sponsored display. We need Bradley to launch a sponsored brand ad. So the sponsored brand ad, it is kind of for ads. You can build a sponsored brand campaign in ads, but it's kind of self-contained. So if you built a campaign, sponsored branded in ads, very similar to the setup in Seller Central, but the rules are basically just for this one campaign. So we're going to look for negative keyword suggestions. We're going to look within that SBA campaign. Obviously, if it has broad keywords, which we suggest for phrase, we're going to find search terms that aren't working, and we're going to make those negative for the sponsored brand campaign. We're also going to do the same thing for new keyword suggestions. We're going to say, hey, which search terms are doing well, again, under the parameters that we set. And then we're going to suggest that as a new keyword, but it's going to be for the sponsored brand campaign. So there's no movement in our rules right now for the sponsored brand. It's a self-contained little island, so to speak. So if there was a sponsored brand campaign here and we were to do a configuration, you'd basically just be doing the settings. You'd be adjusting the settings of when that you saw for that one sponsored brand campaign. In a future generation, again, campaign builder is something that we're focusing on rebuilding potentially for this quarter. It's on my list to have keywords to be suggested across different campaign types, but not currently right now. Sponsored display, I think, was also in your question. So sponsored display for product targeting, yes, but for audience targeting, no. Because as you know, or maybe you don't, for sponsored display, you can either do audience targeting, which is outside of Amazon, or you can do product targeting, which is inside of Amazon. So inside of Amazon, yes, the goal is to have product targeting included in our keyword rules so that you can move ASINs as well. Right now, it's limited just to keywords. So that's why I told you earlier for product targeting, for this one here, since the only ad group in here is ASINs, it's not available because we currently don't move ASINs. ASINs, again, are different. They're not keywords, they're products. And so there's different ways that Amazon notes them. And so it makes it a little bit more difficult to just, we can't just treat them necessarily as ASINs. In our keyword suggestions, we give suggestions on all of your campaigns, whether they be keyword based or product, and that's what each of these here. So these are we give suggestions on sponsored products. Product targeting looks like he applied those. Sponsored brands, he doesn't have any, but we do actually give suggestions as well on sponsored display product targeting. So if you were to receive suggestions on those product targeting campaigns, Torsten, you would hopefully you would double check to make sure that's a product target that you would want. Actually, no, these are bids. So it's basically saying we're just increasing the bids, but you would just copy and paste these and then you can move it to a different campaign. I'm trying to see if he has any. No, he doesn't have any ASIN-based suggestions right now. So, okay. Adrian asks, oh wait, hold on, let's see. We got quite a few since then. Mandy asks, if all of our campaigns were built in Seller Central, do you suggest rebuilding them in ads so we can get all the suggestions, new keywords, negative keywords, and then it will be easier to move down the chain from auto research proven? Mandy, you must have come on late to this training because I just showed you guys how to put your campaigns not built-in ads into the rules for ads. That's what this configure button is. So if you want to really quickly learn how to do that, again, that is here, ads rules overview. So I won't do the full training here, but technically, no, you don't need to rebuild. You don't need to pause all those campaigns and then rebuild them in ads. You can just, once they're imported, you can just click on the configure button, and then you can add the campaigns into the flow that you want. We do suggest that you at least try to follow the flow that we have set forth in our campaign builder, an auto campaign to a broad-based research campaign to an exact match campaign. That flow basically filters your keywords to a campaign that you can then potentially escalate or scale. You can then focus your budget more on that one, because at that point it's gone through 2 layers and it's proven itself. That's why we call it a proven keyword campaign, and that's where you throw your money. But you can technically put a keyword. You don't have to put an auto campaign at the top if you don't have one. You should have an auto campaign if you don't have one already running. But if you don't, or if you have a research or a keyword broad-based campaign that has just a lot of results, a lot of search terms coming through to it, maybe that's when you choose on top, and then make suggestions for the campaign below it, which could be the exact or proven campaign. So in general, Mandy, I don't suggest you pause campaigns in general, whether they're built in ads or built in Seller Central. Amazon loves history. Amazon loves relevancy. Amazon loves data. So the longer you have a campaign on, the better chances it's actually going to eventually convert versus launching brand new campaigns. So obviously you have to launch brand new campaigns if you have new products, but if you've already have campaigns out there, what I would do first is try to clean them up as much as possible. You can do that really simply in ads. Just go to analytics if you want to look at every single search term for every single campaign that you have running, and then start cleaning them up. You can do that right here. So for example, I'm seeing this one at 101% ACoS. And if I wanted to add that as a negative right now, which we can do now in both auto campaigns and research or manual campaigns, I could add this as a negative right now if I wanted to. I'm not going to, because this is Bradley's account and he should be doing this. But you can see really, really simple to do your optimizations of the account of your campaigns once they've first loaded into ads. And actually the training for that one is the analytics page optimization. So this one is really, really good for people that, oh no, I don't want to see me. That one's really good for people that are brand new and want to know, actually first the overview video is the one you should watch first, but this shows you what you should do, what you can do to optimize your campaigns when you're brand new to ads. Sharon asks, how do you pick your 10 to 15 keywords for a broad research campaign? That is a different tutorial or a different training session. That's your Cerebro or Magnet training that we do have. Keyword research is obviously a very important part of not only building your listings, but it's an important part of your PPC campaigns as well. So do the best practices of Cerebro and Magnet, and then you'll be able to pick your 10 to 15 keywords for your broad campaign. I will say that if depending on budget, again, if you have a big budget, choose high volume, high search volume keywords. If you don't have a lot of budget, maybe look for those mid-tail search volume. So those medium search volume type keywords. As long as they're relevant to your product, you should still get a good test out of them. But selecting the keywords is all about doing your keyword research ahead of time in Cerebro and Magnet. Adrian asks, how should we handle misspellings we find in Cerebro and Magnet? Do we add those to campaigns? Absolutely. Why do you think they're in there, Adrian? They're in there because people are putting them in. Yeah, you absolutely should put misspellings because people don't spell well. They really don't. And so they're going to put, one of my clients is it's a crutch. You guys may have seen my crutch client and maybe some of my other trainings. And how do people spell crutch? C-R-U-C-H. That's not how you spell crutch. It's C-R-U-T-C-H with a silent T. So what's one of the biggest selling converting keywords for that campaign? The misspelling of crutch, C-R-U-C-H, because people can't spell. So definitely use those. Torsten asks, great to hear about the roadmap. Last question, is there a rule option that considers organic rank and links to rank tracker if the keyword moves out of the top 5 increased bid? Yes, that is in the works. Obviously, we do have Keyword Tracker. It's another tool that we have here at Helium 10 that does consider or measures your organic rank as well as your sponsored rank. So it is something that we do have on the roadmap as well. I'm not going to say when that's going to be. Obviously, you guys might have heard that we recently acquired PrestaZon. So there's a lot of things that we're doing on the back end to kind of pump up ads. And then once that's done, then that's when we'll start talking about these integrations between different tools. I want to integrate Magnet and Cerebro, right? So to answer, I can't remember her name, her question about keyword research, it would be great for you guys to be able to do that keyword research right within our ads tool. If you're building a campaign, do your keyword research. So there's lots of different integrations that we can do that are on the roadmap, but they are, we're working on integrations with PrestaZon on the back end first before we do those. I will say this though about that, Torsten. Sorry, my throat's dry. Just be very careful with once that is activated, what you do with it. I don't think it's only if you're really tight with your budget, then I consider it being something where if the kind of the inverse of what you asked, if you're high in organic, then maybe I don't have to pay a lot for sponsored, right? So if your sponsor placement is below your organic, then maybe that's not a bad thing. But if you have the budget, why not have both top placements? Be top and sponsored and be one of the first people on organic. That's branding. You're branding your product in the mind of the user the more often they see it. So I would only suggest contemplating reducing sponsored brand spend in the event that you have a high organic listing if you're really focused on trimming down budget. Certainly not at launch. At launch, if you can get organic high and then your sponsored listing high at launch for a couple of weeks, that's awesome. All right. Let's see. Jazz asks, if I have 2 keywords from my keyword research, example, water bottle and water bottles, one is plural. Do I need to run PPC on both? No, you don't. Amazon will automatically give plurals to keywords, even your exact. If you guys look at your exact match keywords, even though you put in maybe just water bottle as an exact match keyword, Amazon will still connect water bottles to that exact match keyword. So if you don't need to do it for exact, you certainly don't need to do it for the rest of your PPC campaign keywords. Even if they have different search volumes, because Amazon, again, will connect them for you. All right. Mandy says, thanks, Vince. Yes, I did come on late. I will take a look at those videos. No problem. Hopefully we will have those PPC training sessions live for you guys soon. Right now, they're locked for our Diamond members that signed up for those PPC sessions. But definitely when those are released too, Mandy, you probably want to check those out. I go through everything from PPC basics all the way through optimizations through session 4. But the training for the edible rules is definitely still here in ads under the Learn button. Abigail asks, have you considered a tool, i.e. bid this keyword to number 1 on mobile up to max bid of X? Bid this keyword to number one on mobile. Well, there isn't separate bidding systems for mobile and desktop, Abigail, so it's the same. There's the results that you're when you do your bidding in Seller Central, it's for both mobile and desktop. So until Amazon comes up with a way that separates those two, that we are able to bid higher on or differentiate our mobile bids versus our desktop bids, then we wouldn't be able to build a tool for that until then. Adrian asks, last question too. I have 15 minutes, guys. These don't have to be your last questions. So last question, Adrian says, what are your thoughts about using the top of search modifier after launching? I actually think that it's, if you're talking about placement bidding, Adrian, I think it's something you should employ, at launch. If you remember, I said you should try to do like a break-even ACoS of 100%. The other thing that you should do at launch is make sure that your bids are at that max bid, right? So that they actually get traffic. So the easiest way to do that after you build your campaign, either in ads or in Seller Central, apply the bids that Amazon suggests for you, but then just go into your placement bidding and increase that top of search to 100%. So you've effectively doubled your bid without necessarily doubling your bid. You've basically said, if Amazon thinks that I'm more likely to get a conversion from this impression, then I'm going to increase my bid up to 100%. And typically when you look at the suggested bids in Amazon, it's always kind of in the middle. So when you double it, you're going to end up being on that high end of that bid. So it's almost the same for top of search. To just say 100% top of search, you're basically effectively doubling it. So it's kind of a time saver if you're launching campaigns, instead of going through each one of the keywords and then looking at the bid and saying, okay, this is the suggested bid, but the recommended bid is 50 cents higher. I'm going to change it to that. You can do that for every single keyword if you want, or you can just apply the suggested keyword and do 100% top of search. So I definitely think it's worth doing. It's not something that you can do in ads. Placement bidding and dynamic bidding is still only something that you can do in Seller Central. But we do take into account, obviously, the fact that has been changed based on the data that we see coming in from Amazon, and then we make our suggestions, based on that. All right. Ivor asks, okay, is it possible to see ACoS according to time of the day? If it's not available in Seller Central, it's probably not going to be something that we can connect to. That's an interesting question, Ivor, but then that basically would involve day parting. That would be the only way you could do it. Is if you had campaigns on and then off for certain times of the day, then you would know what the ACoS is. But Amazon doesn't give us ACoS by time of day or sales attribution by the time of day. So this is an important thing to note. If for you guys that don't, or maybe not aware, but ads does not include the most recent 72 hours of data, right? In its results that we see here. Everywhere in ads where there's a date, except for the change log, because we do want to record things as they happen. But everywhere else, we don't see 3 days worth of data. And that's important because Amazon's changing things in that 72 hours. They are attributing sales. They are removing fraudulent clicks. They're removing sales from payment failures. So there's adjustments that are being made in that 72 hours, which is the reason why we don't use it for our data set, especially our suggestions, because then it would be off. So I guess the point I'm trying to make for that, Ivor, is that just be very careful what you're asking for, because if you're trying to establish time of day for your sales, you have to keep into account that data is potentially in flux, right? Sponsored products have a 7-day pixel. Sponsored brands and sponsored display have a 14-day pixel. So someone can click on your sponsored product ad and then 6 days later actually make the sale. That sale is going to get attributed to that day 6 days before. Somebody can click on one of your sponsored brand ads, right? They can click on your ad, go to your page, not buy, but they can come back 13 days later and click on and then buy, and then that sale is going to get attributed back to the original day. So the data is always in flux. So trying to figure out what your ACoS is according to the time of day, not something I would even try to do, simply because the data is always in flux with Amazon. Where's the session for Diamond? If you are a Diamond member, Tony, you can reach out to our customer service team. You should have received an email with those sessions, those training sessions. Cassandra, yeah, maybe throw our customer support email on here, so you can reach out to just check with them. It may not be released yet. Again, I just recorded the last one last Tuesday, and it's been a very busy past 7 days. But those will be available to our Diamond members first, since that's the group that we opened up those sessions for, and then we'll potentially release those to the rest of the group. Support at helium10.com to ask that question. All right, so where were we? Abigail. Okay, sorry. Let me try and record that a little clearer. Have you considered a tool where a specific keyword you can keep bidding it up? Till it's number one, up to a limit of X. Yes, that does make more sense. That would involve, again, connecting our keyword tracker tool. So if you're not familiar with our keyword tracker tool, you can put keywords in there, and we will let you know the status of if it's where it shows on the search results, organically or sponsored. That's something that we would then include in our suggestions. We would include that logic in our suggestions, and then it would increase that to number one. But that being said, and again, that's integration that's potentially coming down the road. But that being said, Abigail, our suggestions are always going to give you the suggestion to increase them if they're doing well, if they're doing below, and we will cap it if the bid that you're already at is at or above 2 times the CPC. So we technically already have something in place with our suggestions that does help get you there. It's just not necessarily dictated by the positioning that you would get from using a keyword tracker. All right. Okay, Olga asks, if I put the Spanish word decorativo, male in Spanish, for decorative, does Amazon index decorativa female as well? That is a great question, Olga. I do not have the answer to that one. I want to say no, because as far as I know, the only thing that they do connect together is plurals, right? Like we were talking about before, adding the S. I do not know the answer to that one. That's something I'll definitely have to look up. I would want to say no, because that sounds like it'd be pretty advanced. They would have to know every single word in Spanish that ends in either an O or an A, and then know to split that up. That sounds kind of advanced for Amazon to do, but it's something that I can definitely check up on. And then I'm going to make a note on that one, and then I'll answer it in next week's once I get an answer for that one. All right, Sharon asks, for a new product, how do I pick the 10 to 15 keywords to add to my broad campaign when keyword research gives me 70 keywords? Again, Sharon, so you dictate it based on search volume. Pick 10 keywords that are the same search volume. Pick the other 10 keywords that are close to the same search volume, and down the road, or 20. If you've got very low search volume keywords, you could do 20, right? So there's 20 gone and you got 50 left. Then look at the next 50 and say, okay, what search volumes are similar to each other? If you really want to test all 70, I think that's kind of high. You should probably whittle that down even further. I would say whittle that down to 40. There's no reason for you to test 20 keywords off the bat. If you really want to, you can. But the best case is, again, testing campaigns with no more than 20 keywords, and that's only if the search volumes is low. So that's the criteria. The criteria is the search volume. What's the search volume of those keywords, and that's how you dictate, which campaigns or how many campaigns you need to test all those keywords to get the data you need. Mohammed says, HN is a very good among all the Amazon tools. Thank you, Mohammed. I was seeing some of your earlier posts about ads, so I do appreciate that. I'm glad that it's helped you. Yes, there are certain keywords. We initially work on those keywords to rank, and then others with comparatively low search volume. Again, yeah, so Mohammed's answering that question. PPC, again, is all about getting the data. You can't get the data if you put low search volume keywords in the same campaign as high search volume keywords. Why? Because the high search volume keywords are just going to take all the budget. So you're never going to, those lower search volume keywords are not going to get any budget. They're not going to get any spend, not going to get any impressions. It's going to be eaten up by those higher search volume keywords. So that's why the criteria, Sharon, is the search volume. if they're all the similar search volume, then the impressions should potentially be evenly spread. And that's why we use that as a criteria for how many keywords go in a campaign. Any attention to the competition on the keyword IQ score? I honestly, I tend to not consider the competition in that when just launching, Sharon. Again, it's all about getting the data. If the IQ score might be maybe bad in one sense, but then it actually might be keywords that you end up converting on. So the best thing is to test. And so I wouldn't filter it necessarily or based on an IQ score. Search volume definitely is one that you want to focus on. Obviously, the higher search volume that you see, that means that keyword is more relevant. More people are looking for that particular search term, which is why it has such a high search volume. So those are the ones that are potentially going to convert for you, but they're also going to be more expensive. So at launch, that's why we say try to look for different levels of search volume, because you might find some lower search volume keywords that some people are still looking for, but they might get you conversions and it might not be as expensive as focusing just solely on those higher search volume keywords. All right, a couple more questions here, and then we're running up on our 11 o'clock. Mohammed asks, if competition is high, it's not recommended to choose those keywords. It will cause more bleeding. Yes, exactly. So he just basically said what I just said. If the competition is high, it's not as recommended. It's going to be more expensive. So I would focus on your lower tail, mid tail keywords first. And then once you have an established product, once you have reviews, once you have star rankings, once you have actually street cred on Amazon, so to speak, then maybe try those very high search volume keywords. Because if the keyword's very popular, very high search volume, good conversion rate, the buyer's going to go with the one that has the higher ranking, the more reviews. And at launch, that's not what you have. So that, picking the highly competitive keywords is not something that you want to do potentially at launch. Unless you have budget. So Mohammed's comment here is about bleeding. Bleeding is what? Bleeding means you're wasting money. Well, if you have a lot of budget ahead of time, then that's not necessarily a problem. But if you're going to be conscious about your budget, obviously bleeding is at the beginning, especially, is a problem. So it all really depends on where you're at, how much budget you've allocated, how aggressive you want to be at launch. That will dictate some of those answers. But definitely keep an eye out for that campaign structure, the training that's going to be coming out soon, hopefully, and that should help answer some of those questions. I did see another question up at the top that, let's see, I was above Mohammed. 1 second. Does he have a branded? Nice mug. Helium doesn't have a branded. No, this is actually an AdCon mug. So we were at AdCon last week? God, the weeks are just blending. For 2 days, I was at an AdCon and sipping on this mug for that event. It was an advertising event for Amazon, invite only sponsors as well as attendees. Great event, but yeah, that's where I got this particular swag from. Before we leave, I want to make sure that you guys are aware of our promo that we have running for the next 2 days for Prime Days. We have a discount, a very heavy discount that we're doing on our platinum level. If you're not already a member of Helium 10, definitely take advantage of that. It's only $20 for your first month. So, the normal membership for that is $97. We're just giving it away for $20 through midnight tomorrow. So definitely take advantage. If you are a platinum member and you don't have necessarily access to ads, you technically do. You should see, even as a platinum member, you should see the ads logo at the top. And as a platinum member, what you will see is just the dashboard. You won't be able to click on any of the links to go through to the ad manager, but you will see a dashboard as a platinum member, and you will see our analytics page. Again, none of the links will connect because these all go to different areas of ads, but you definitely will get an idea and a feel for ads at the platinum level if you kind of want to just see what it's about and maybe get access to some of those pro trainings as well. And then you can and then upgrade after that. But definitely take advantage if you guys are not at least platinum right now. If you're brand new Helium 10 people, make sure you take advantage of that. Oh, and yes, I do want to note that we do have PPC tips. We do have a channel or not necessarily a channel. It's on YouTube. We do have a playlist of my PPC tips that come out once a week. I've done one for the past 6 weeks or 7 weeks. Yes. If you have a link to that playlist, Cassandra, that might be cool to throw in there too, or maybe we can add a slide for that. But yeah, each week we do have just 1 minute tips. Today's tip is about Prime Day budgets, so that's something that's going to be coming out shortly, I believe. But yeah, definitely take a look at that. Again, free content that we're putting out once a week, just short minute tips for PPC, all focused on helping you to obviously leverage ads a little bit better if you do have it. There's a minute tip on TACoS. So if you want a real quick refresher on what total sales and TACoS is and why it's important, that's also included in there. I think we have a couple of tips in there regarding total sales and TACoS. But the links are in the comment section right now. So if you guys want to save that, come back and take a look every Tuesday. We'll be doing these Ask Me Anything, these live sessions, and then we'll also be launching 1 minute tips on Tuesday. So TACoS Tuesday is a big deal for me, and hopefully something that we can talk more about maybe in our upcoming sessions. So hope you guys got a lot out of today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you guys. And if there were any questions that you guys didn't get answered, feel free to stop by next Tuesday at 10 o'clock for TACoS Tuesday at 10 with me, Vince Montero, product manager of ads. I didn't say that up front, but if you guys don't know that already, so please come back and look forward to speaking to you then. All right. Thanks, guys.